go bilingual since
I understand sort of basic Urdu. I won't impose my baby Urdu on you and anyone here, but I mean, you speak what's most comfortable to you, and that's fine.
yeah, then I can try my baby Sindhi as well.
No, you are from Multan. You are.
So Dr. Saab, फिर आप you can come. Okay. Should we start? Should we start? Yeah, okay. Good afternoon, assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Amir Amjad. I'm a senior program manager with the Friedrich Naumann Foundation. The German foundation is supporting this all talk, and thank you very much, of course, Dr. Riaz Sheikh, the department, and SZABIST for instrumenting this discussion. We have experts around. We'll be discussing, of course, issue of water governance and how Indus River is a confluence of economy and in culture. So we'll have experts, but I don't want to share the further details. We have a film which is more visualizing the effects and facts about the Indus, and would like you to have a look before the discussion. As I told you, I'm from a German organization. We are fortunate to have the people who screened in the film, the experts, but also the head of country office, Miss Biget Lam. She heads our operation in Pakistan. Luckily, we managed to have her in Karachi trip as well. But nevertheless, she was also keen, and she's still keen with the, spreading the word around on this topic. We had a couple of events already in Islamabad with the civil society organization, with policymakers, and then with the students and academia as well. And this is the the continuity of the same discussion here at SZABIST. And again, thank you, Dr. Riaz, because he's very keen bringing different topic when it comes to socio-political challenges and people and citizens in Pakistan. So once we met in Islamabad, I shared the idea, and he just like in next 5 minutes he was agreed. He said, whenever you're coming to Karachi, just let me know, and we can arrange a talk with my colleagues and my faculty. So thank you again, once again, and I'll hand it over to Ms. Biget Lam. Please share a few words.
Assalamu alaikum to all of you. For me, it's a great honor to have your precious time, because I know you're all very busy people and you all have very important jobs to do, because you are teaching the future generation of leaders of this country. So obviously this is one of the most respectable and most esteemed, let's say, jobs and tasks that you can actually have. My name is Birgit Lamm. I'm currently the country director of Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Freedom here in Pakistan. We are a German think tank which has been active in Pakistan since 1986. We were founded in Germany in 1958, and our, let's say, job or mission in Germany as well as internationally is to work for a society where people have the space to realize their project of life, but also take the responsibility for it. So this is why we do work on issues of good governance, rule of law, and also on economic policy and entrepreneurship issues. And it's basically also empowering civil society and every individual to assume his role and his responsibility in his own life, but also in his society, in whatever field of expertise you choose to get involved. And this film was actually a combination and a passion of ours, which we actually happened to learn about here in Sindh at La Hoti Melo Festival 3 years ago, when a panel of experts, I think Dr. Hassan Abbas was part of that panel as well, and the filmmaker Wajahat Malik were talking about the issues and the relevance of River Indus for Pakistan. And obviously this is something that here in Sindh, the province which actually has the name of River Sindhu, it is nothing that you really have to explain to people. But in Islamabad or in Lahore, it definitely is an issue that you have to share with people. So this film shares actually an adventure and a travel story of the filmmaker Wajahat Malik, who wanted to travel the River Indus from the borders in the north of Pakistan down to its place where it ends in the Arabian Sea here near Karachi, and he wanted to do it on a raft. So it shows the whole story of the peoples along the river and the adventures and the experience that this team of adventurers and filmmakers had while they were traveling on the River Indus. And I heard that story when the film was not produced, and I got very much excited about it because I had the opportunity of traveling a bit in Pakistan, was amazed about the beautiful landscapes and the rich diversity of culture and the hospitality of the locals that you find along its way. And I mean, in the end, there would be no Pakistan. Nobody could have ever lived in this region of South Asia without the Indus, giving it life and livelihood for everything that is there. So I heard about that story, and then we actually decided to produce the film ourselves. And out came a 20-minute documentary that shows like a very comprised version of these adventures, and it has served us very, very well in taking the discussion about water management and the relevance of keeping Sindhu alive, because it gives life to the people of Pakistan, and actually triggering also a debate in areas where, let's say, the problems and challenges of River Sindhu are not that easily captured. And I think it has given experts like Dr. Abbas, let's say, more like open doors and open ears to actually state your cause. So yeah, this is why we are so passionate about it, and we have started showing this film and opening this discussion right, I think it was right before, when the floods started. It was in end of May, June, and the first presentation was actually in Lahore, where people are not really believers about, let's say, the issues that low riparian Sindhis would have with it. But Lahore has a different perspective of these things. It was quite amazing how you can actually change perspectives and actually start a debate even then. So much to say. I think we have a look at the film, and Dr. Hassan Abbas is also stars in that film, among others as well. And obviously it's always exciting to have people who have actually been in a film, and then you can talk about it and take the discussion from there. So much, and hopefully we see the film first, and then I think you all also know a bit better what I'm talking about, and we just engage in a hopefully very lively debate that can take us from there. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. Can we play the film? And I would like to please reduce the lights, at least we can have a good view.
I always wanted to raft the entire length of Indus from where it enters into Pakistan all the way down to the Arabian Sea.
अच्छा जी, हम इस वक्त हमसीगोन में, और ये वो जगह जहाँ से हम अपना राफ्ट दरिया सिंध में डालेंगे, और हमारा प्लान ये है कि दरिया के साथ साथ चलते हुए राफ्ट में कराची तक जाएंगे। We are at the confluence of River Indus and Shayok River.
जैसे हम लंच का वेट कर रहे थे तो हम देख रहे थे डस्ट स्टॉर्म भी आ रही थी हमारे अपोजिट में, तो उस टाइम पे हमें बहुत मुश्किल था कि हम आगे फॉरवर्ड करें क्योंकि वो विंड्स जो है हमारे अगेंस्ट चल रही थी।
उस डस्ट स्टॉर्म में हमें बहुत रेत चुनसी थी हमारी आंखों में, नाक में और मुंह में, बोला भी नहीं जा रहा था। और फिर हम छुप के गाड़ियों के पीछे बैठे, कुछ लोग गाड़ियों के अंदर बैठ गए, कुछ गाड़ियों के बाहर उन्होंने अपने आप को डस्ट स्टॉर्म से बचाया।
just short of a store bridge. We were cruising down the river when we saw this family of Jalavans frantically waving at us. We thought they were just, saying hello, hi, but when we got close, we realized that they were saying not to go forward. So we came this way and found out that there's a huge rapid, which we just went and saw. It was 6+.
लेफ्ट साइड से एक लोकल बंदे ने मुझे आवाज़ दी कि उस तरफ से जाओ, उस तरफ से जाओ। तो हमारे पास कोई 5-6 सेकेंड भी नहीं थे कि हम वहाँ से अवॉइड करें उस सेक्शन को। तो हमने कहा गो। Here we go!
ये डैम सिर्फ ये वो कंक्रीट का स्ट्रक्चर नहीं होता, डैम के पीछे पूरी लेक बनती है। और दामिर बादशाह डैम के केस में मेरे ख्याल में ये 100 किलोमीटर की लेक है पीछे। अताबाद लैंडस्लाइड, पूरा पहाड़ आके दरिया में गिरा। इस तरह का अगर कोई पहाड़ टूट के उस लेक में गिरता है तो उसकी जो एनर्जी है उस पहाड़ के टूटने की, वो पूरी की पूरी पानी में ट्रांसफर हो जाती है। उसमें ये होता है कि वो एक वेव बनती है छोटे से डैम में, बहुत ज्यादा हाई एनर्जी वेव। और क्योंकि डैम जो है वो आगे तंग जगह के ऊपर बना होता है, तो वो जब वेव ऐसे करके तंग जगह पे आती है तो वो पूरी की पूरी एनर्जी वर्टिकली ऊपर लेके जाती है। तो ये पॉसिबिलिटी है कि डैम अपनी जगह पे खड़ा है, उसको कुछ ना हो, और जो पूरे का पूरा डैम का पानी है वो छलांग लगा के डैम से दूसरी तरफ जा गिरे, और फिर वो जो तबाही मचाएगा उसका अंदाजा नहीं किया जा सकता।
Expedition Indus 2022 has entered into its second phase. We are in Jhangira, right next to River Kabul.
We started from Jhangira and we saw there was a lot of pollution being poured into the river. There was sewage coming into it. There's a lot of pollution from the marble factories which are washing the marble crush. We saw children playing in that river. We saw women fetching water from there. We saw animals drinking it. So I believe, that also requires a case study to check whether this, how much this has impacted the health.
Pakistani water establishment has been almost addicted since the mid-19th century and increasingly so since the mid-60s with the Indus Waters Treaty and the Indus Development Program of foreign funded, designed, consulted kinds of mega projects. And I don't think I'm being cynical, I think I'm being realistic that a lot of this drive for dams, unnecessary, expensive dams, is driven by those.
We are in the old city of Talabag and it is beautiful. This place is called Loharawala Bazaar and it has old wooden houses, dilapidated houses, but people are still living in them. Has a very sort of local community feel, you know, and I felt like I'm in the olden times.
We've been on the boat for the past 5 hours. The progress is really slow because there are so many patches of shallow water that we have to get out of the boat, turn the engine off, push it towards the deep channel. So it's really frustrating because we have to cover a lot of distance towards Daira Ismail Khan.
एक ख़ास बात इस दरिया की ये भी है कि ये एक बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट डॉल्फिन स्पीशी का भी घर है जिसको कि इंडस ब्लाइंड डॉल्फिन कहते हैं और मुकामी लोग उसको भुलन कहते हैं। तो ले दे के इसकी जो टोटल तादाद है इस दरिया में वो भी 1400 से 1500 के करीब रह गई है, जो कि बहुत ही एक कम तादाद है किसी भी जानवर के सर्वाइवल के लिए, इसलिए इसको एक एंडेंजर्ड स्पीशी भी कहा जाता है।
Just saw an Indus blind dolphin moments ago, a few kilometers down the Daira Ismail Khan Bakr Bridge. Great sign, I'm so happy about it. It just went like this. Just, fleeting glimpse, but there is one Indus blind dolphin right here. So, for record, one we saw. I hope we spot more. This is Mr. Majid, who lives right by the river, and his house is next in line. The river is eroding this land. Soon his house will be gone and he'll have nowhere to go. Majid sahab,
जी सर,
ये थोड़ा कार पे बस जान वाला है।
जी हाँ, बिल्कुल ढान वाले हैं। आगे ढाए गए ना।
हाँ।
जी हाँ।
पहले थे घर सन।
जी हाँ, तो सारे घर हैं, उधर मस्जिद है, तो ये सारे गुजारे तो घर हैं तो।
तो ये थोड़ा घर तो जब बह जाएगा तो फिर किधर जाओगे?
बस फिर पीछे जरा इधर जमीन है अपने कोने भी जब गांव बन के मुल्क घिनू जाए इतना पैसा ही कोई नहीं। बस इधर ढाने का बड़ा इधर वाल बने हैं।
उधर उस तरफ।
जी हाँ।
तो कितनी जमीन है आपकी?
आपकी जमीन थोड़ी है, तकरीबन 2 कनाला है। इतना ही है जितना बैठे हैं।
यही है।
जी हाँ।
तो ये तो दरिया जब इसको ले जाएगा तो
बस पीछे बात अल्लाह के आस रहते हैं।
ओहो।
जी हाँ।
तो ये तो पहुंच जाएगा दरिया?
जी हाँ, ये तक दरिया पहुंचे। ये उनको बात पूजा काली ले पाए हैं, अल्लाह के आस रहते बैठे हैं।
Very close to Tosa Barrage, there is this fisherman community. These fishermen live on their boats, they eat on their boats, they have their weddings on their boats. I mean, that's their life. So let's take a look. Got shot at by the guy over there. We are in the firing range of these guys who are shooting at us. We are at Kotari Barrage, and lo and behold, there is no water. I don't know how we will raft all the way to the delta. That was our original plan. So think about it, from Kotari Barrage all the way to Karochan, there will be no river. So I guess this is the end of Expedition Indus 2022, because there is no more river further downstream. Let me show you the reality of the delta of mighty river Indus. We are on our way to Karochan, but I had to stop and show you what happens when the river doesn't flow. This vast expanse of land was once riverine forest and agricultural land which yielded great quantity of crops. But now, river Indus stops at Kotari Barrage. It doesn't flow here. So what happens is that the seawater is encroaching this land. The seawater in high tide comes all the way, goes all the way over there, and when it recedes, all this land becomes useless. Look at the desolation. There's nothing but just bushes flailing in the wind. Let me see what this water tastes like. Yep, it's brackish.
Well, we are in the mangrove forests of KT Bandar. This is a beautiful walkway. The breeze is beautiful, and today we learnt a lot. But the most important thing we learnt over the period of 45 days that we have traveled on the Indus is that let the rivers flow, let the people flourish, let the civilizations thrive along the banks of Indus. Do not mess with nature, do not tie up rivers, and respect people's wishes. Nature will respect you. Otherwise, don't expect miracles to happen, because they won't.
Yes, thank you very much. Let the Indus flow. It's actually my takeaway. Before we get into further discussion, I would like to have a round of introduction. Everybody who's sitting around the table, so at least we can call each other with name or with designation. Please be brief. Your name, and if you are from the faculty, what are you teaching, and if otherwise if you have any role, just please share with us. So I would like to start from this side. Just be brief and your name and then your background.
अब्दुल्ला सोलंगी मेरा नाम है और मैं कराची में सिविल सोसाइटी से ताल्लुक़ है मेरा.
My name is Ishaq Sumro. I am a freelance journalist and researcher.
Nisar Ahmed. I am advocate of High Court and I came from Hyderabad.
Jannat Hussain, Class Travel magazine से ताल्लुक़.
I am Professor Ajaz Qureshi. I am a retired professor of economics and doing some research on economy. I have written some books as well, published by Oxford University Press, and that's what it is. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Riaz. Thank you for inviting me here. My name is Sana Baksamusa. I'm the Director External Relations at Hisar Foundation, and Hisar Foundation is a foundation for water, food, and livelihood security.
I'm Dr. Hassan Abbas. I work for Water Resources and I'm an independent consultant.
I'm Riaz Sheikh. I'm faculty member at SZABIST and looking after social sciences department.
My name is Naina Ahuja and I'm a teacher in Hyderabad. So I teach English, Urdu, maths and other subjects. Thank you.
I'm Samir Ahuja. I usually assist my dad in the social activities like these and all. Jagdish Ahuja, yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Dr. Khalida Tanveer. I am faculty over here. I teach psychology subjects.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Shehrbano Kaka. I am principal in a public sector college in Karachi, and I did my MS from SZABIST. Now currently I am working, studying and researching on gender representation and textbooks from CBM.
Hello, I am Anita Pinjani. I am General Secretary of SEGA, Women Branch, and Women Action Forum's member of Women Action Forum, works for women's rights. And our organization is Sindhu-Vas Foundation. We also work for this Indus Delta, Indus River, how to connect this Indus River, the whole Pakistan.
Jagdish Ahuja, President Sindhu-Vas Foundation and ideologue of the Indus philosophy. I am writer as well as social and political activist, and Vice President of Sindh United Party also.
My name is Zarmeena Khan and I am Research Associate at SZABIST.
My name is Dishan Shehzad and I work as a Program Support Officer at SZABIST.
Hello, I am Imran Alam and I am the Program Coordinator in Department of Social Sciences.
For your introduction. Without further ado, I would like to start a discussion, and of course, we'll just set some rules. I'll ask the panelists, please be in time. So I'll, in the first round, like 5 minutes for everyone, and then of course, if anybody has a question, we still can take the question, and otherwise I'll go for another round with the discussion. बट फील फ्री इन बिटवीन, अगर आपका कोई सवाल किसी भी पैनलिस्ट से आता है तो आप पूछ सकते हैं, और फिल्म के मुतल्लक भी हो तो वो भी हम बात कर सकते हैं, बिकॉज डॉक्टर हसन फिल्म में और सारी जर्नी में कुछ साथ थे और बाकी टाइम ऑफ द कैमरा उन टीम के साथ काम कर रहे थे. So yeah, I'll start, Sana, with you, and since you work with the foundation, with an organization which is actually mainly working with the water, communities, riverian communities, especially when it comes to the basic provisions of food, livelihood. So just tell us about, like, what are the conditions when it comes to you can have this one. जो पानी इंडस के हवाले से, I know Indus is one thing, but we have dozens of tributaries that actually flows through from all the way गिलगित या सिंध से लेक. तो आप कैसे देखते हैं अब क्या सूरत हाल है, कंडीशंस क्या हैं, स्पेशली जो सोशो इकोनॉमिक हम कंडीशंस की बात करते हैं, जो रिवरियन कम्युनिटीज़ हैं और उनके क्या चैलेंजेस हैं?
Before I answer your question, I'd just like to, if you allow me, just comment on the film. It's a brilliant film, very well made. It was, it really felt like we were on the journey together, It gives an opportunity for anyone who can't take this journey on a raft to actually go through from the north all the way down to the south. And what struck me the most was the value that people, all the people in all the different regions that they showed, the value that the people gave to the river Indus. And then we had a shot of the wastewater flowing from the marble factories. And, that is really the problem, because the intrinsic value that people should have for the Indus River, that is lost. We now, the narrative has to change, and films like this where there is, it shows you how important the Indus River is, not just for the economy. We all understand, because we are an agrarian economy. Indus River is our lifeline economically, but even spiritually, culturally, there's an intrinsic value that Indus River holds for the people. Our beginnings, like Ms. Virgit Lamb also mentioned, that it starts with the Indus Valley civilization or any other civilization. They all started near rivers, because rivers and water is so important for just survival. It's not just about economics. So these kinds of films help you change the narrative, and that is what is the need of the hour, because I think we need to move beyond dams. And if you think about the Indus River, maybe people in Sindh understand this more, but I feel like when you talk about the Indus River, people don't really don't think about the Indus River itself. They think about the Indus Basin, the irrigation system. And that's what needs to change. When you talk about the Indus system, you need to talk about the river in a holistic manner, not in terms of administrative units, that it's got 5 large dams and it's got these many link canals and these many barrages. That's not how we should think of the system. So coming back to your question, Of course, I mean, the Indus River is our lifeline, and now with climate change coming upon us, or we've already seen the impacts of climate change and the consequences of climate change. Number one, the Indus Basin irrigation system is now not enough, because jab wo bana tha 1960s mein, there was no recognition of these kinds of changes, because now look at the precipitation patterns, look at the volume of rainfall that falls, you know, from July to September. It's extended into September, and now the kinds of flooding that happens is not just your riverine, it's not just pluvial or fluvial. There's more happening. There's coastal disturbances. There's you know, almost like a tropical rain. What Karachi faced last year was like almost tropical rainfall, where like it was just very hot. Suddenly the water rises up, evaporates, and it gets too full, and then it falls in a, you know, cloud burst. So we need to change the way we think about the Indus River, and we need to change the way we think about how to live with the Indus system.
Dr. Hassan, I know, I mean, you are based somewhere around Islamabad, but people know you always, you know, close to Sindh and Sindhu cause, and that's you of course was mentioning in the movie. Just tell us about the, you know, especially the infrastructure when we see in Pakistan the river or the water management system and infrastructure, and what are the current challenges when we are talking about in 2023. We have a couple of floods we've seen, like, you know, so how you see that, you know, the challenge of water management and then system in Pakistan?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Bridget and Amjad, for actually inviting me on this very important topic and at a very prestigious place. And I'm thankful to the SZABIST University as well for giving us a chance to sit here and talk about this thing. Having said that, coming to your question, you talk about the impediments, and I think one of the biggest impediment is the lack of understanding of the river system at the highest level. The problem is our policymakers, they do not understand what a river is. Mostly our policy circles are dominated by engineers. I have nothing against engineers, they do a wonderful job, but engineers have their own knowledge, own field of knowledge, and then there is a host of other fields of knowledge which they should be consulting, but that kind of consulting is not probably in the culture of the decision makers. The engineers, they see the river as a conduit carrying water, and then they do their own plumbing of the river system. That much water should be stopped here, diverted there, here the river will not flow, here it will flow, here it will be stopped, here it will be stored. They do not see it from the lens of the holistic things which are around the river. That something we see in this movie. It is not just a flowing conduit of water. The river at places it is very blue, at places it is very silty, at places it is very rapid, at places it is very calm, at places it spreads out wide with huge calmness, at places, and then you see the culture changing as the river changes its physical forms. Those changes into the cultures are according to the rhythms of the river. And all the civilization which has evolved around this river system is basically evolved with the rhythms of the river. And when we plumb this river at a massive scale, we break those rhythms. That means we are breaking the ecology, we are breaking the culture, we are breaking so many things which this system was doing for past 50 million years. And we have destroyed all of that in less than 200 years, starting from the colonial times, and more so in the last 60 years since after signing the Indus Water Treaty. So the river was completely disrespected in those times when this treaty was being negotiated and all those mega structures and diversions were being planned. So that has destroyed the river system. The best river is a flowing river. I gave a TED talk back in 2017, and the title of that talk is Let the Rivers Flow. And this team of adventurers, they also picked the same line. They concluded the movie by saying, let the rivers flow. Now, I struggled when I was giving that TED talk because I had nothing to show to the people what does it really mean, let the river flow, and what it means when the river is not flowing. But this movie is a huge help for me, because now I can refer to this movie. This is what it means, let the rivers flow. So I think this is a great effort. I will stop here and let the discussion move on, and we'll come back with question, answers, and more comments. Thank you.
We have Professor Ijaz Qureshi. I mean, he's an economist and educationist as well. Sir, we would like to know, I mean, what is the economic cost when we see that this is changing of rivers and putting new infrastructure, which Dr. Hassan says that, are less citizen, climate, and river friendly. So how do you see the economic cost, which definitely comes from people's money, people's taxes? So how you see that its importance or its usefulness?
Hello. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank FNF and SZABIST for inviting me to this forum. And also I appreciate the film, the documentary that we saw. And I must thank God that at the end, the delta could not be seen because of the no water. And Sindh has been paying so much as a cost, economic cost, whatever you have said, because of all that. And even there was no water. And see how this sea intrusion up to Badin and other places, the entire district has been ruined, So as far as the planning and the governance is concerned, although you know that Indus has been a great civilization, the very name of India is by Indus, you see. So, that's how. And then I would really say that what is happening in our country, the dams which now have to be opposed and are being opposed, Sindh is in the forefront in opposing the Kalabagh and others and all that. But then the governance issue, that in my view is very important in whole country, but Sindh especially, because it's dominated by the feudal lords and these big jagidars and zamindars, and the poor people, they are not able to get the benefit out of this water of Indus, because we find big outlets and direct outlets from even the river and the big canals being taken away by the zamindars and the feudal lord throughout Sindh. Therefore, there is obviously a shortage, because Sindh is an agriculture, as Ms. Sana also said, whole country, we're agriculture country, but Sindh especially depends. Unfortunately, you would know that there's no industry. In the last 25 years, not a single industry has been established in Sindh because of the governance, the government's ravaya, the way that the investment, they are not doing it. Therefore, we all depend on Indus, and Indus, because If you look at the Sakhar barrage that was made in 1932, that was a boon, in fact. But then slowly and gradually, Nile, Mississippi, these are the examples one can really quote, but because of these governance, I would say that then the distribution of land has gone to the big landlords and big generals, Faujis, and all those people. So things have really been bad. So economic pressure, cost that we are bearing is really not helping us out at all, and we are going backwards. I have to talk more, although I thought, how can I tell you the civilization of Sindh and the culture. Culture depends on this, and even during the Arab period, Indus was used for the traffic. From Indus, these things went to the sea, and the Britishers, when came, they renovated many things. There were small boats, but they brought up bigger boats, and so things were very good at that time. And but now, since, as Dr. Hassan Abbas very rightly said, that people don't have a sense of this, thing that what is a river? How can river be manned or managed? So these are the things that we see. Thank you.
Dr. Qureshi. Sana, I would like to, since Hasar I know for a work is very much organized and also engaged in the policy discussion and dialogue. So how do you see there's like any chance or is any discussion about the policy on water management? I mean, we are sitting in Sindh, and Sindh is the lower riparian and the end of the Indus River as well. They have a lot of concerns, but how do you see at like a national level when it comes to water policy or water management policy? Is there any, or if there is, what is the focus?
So the Pakistan National Water Policy was approved finally in April 2018, 60 years after Pakistan gained independence. But it has everything imaginable inside it. Matlab, there's no focus necessarily. However, the thing, yeah, it's a biryani. So, and also there's no, and see, the problem with Pakistan and policies in Pakistan is that there's always a gap, because policies are made, but there is no implementation. And if there is no implementation, then it's not going to remain effective. And in Pakistan, water is actually a provincial subject. So having a national water policy does not really fulfill its purpose until and unless the provinces come up with their own policy. So there has been exercise on in the part of the provinces that water policies are being made. I think they're still in working, there's a working draft and they're still being tabled, and there's consultations and discussions. But now with the political context of Pakistan right now, that everything else has been pushed to the back burner, right? But the issue again is that water is a provincial subject, but it's only looked at in terms of surface irrigation systems. There is nothing else beyond. And there needs to be a discussion on looking at, like we are all saying it, looking at the Indus system as a whole. You can't divide the Indus River into different provincial boundaries. It's not, the river has to be looked at holistically. And there has to be some body that looks at maintaining the integrity of the system as a whole. And until and unless we can do that, we cannot ensure that the river will flow beyond Kotri Barrage, which is what the situation is right now.
But that's sad. I mean, I know for this policy, I just wanted to have your opinion, because if there is any update on it. Dr. Hassan, I would like to ask about especially the difference of water patterns and water infrastructure. If you see from, of course, from Gilgit and then coming down to Sindh, are there any sustainable solution or water infrastructure that can be placed when we see that water conditions are depleting in our country and we are under that threat of water scarcity in a couple of years?
Yes, I think this is a very good question, and this is the general rhetoric these days that we are water scarce, we are water stressed, we are losing water, we are getting worse in terms of water resources, and after all this So after all this rhetoric, wherever it is presented, at the end of the day, there is a concluding statement that we should be building more structures and we should be increasing our storage capacity. You would hear the argument that we only have like 30 days of storage capacity and it should be 120 days. India has 900 days, Egypt has 700 days, US has 900 days, blah, 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 blah. And then you will hear that US built 50,000 dams, China built 58,000 dams, India built 4,000 dams, and we only built 2 dams. So, I mean, and at the end of the day, again, after all this argument, oh, we should be building more dams. So that's the discourse which is prevailing in the policy circles, especially up in our northern part of the country. Whereas the river is neither starved of water, nor we are running out of storage, nor our water resources are depleting. Everything is, by nature, is intact. Because what you are talking is the terrestrial systems. There is another system which is the atmospheric system, and that atmospheric system is still working the way it had been working for the past 40 million years. This is ocean, this is mountains, this is cloud, this strikes the mountains, precipitates, rivers flow out of it. This is happening for the last 40 million years. There's another very famous thing going on these days that in 2025, Pakistan will run out of water. Run out of water. When previous government was formed, our previous Prime Minister, he, in his second address to the nation, he made this statement that in 2025, we are going to run out of water, therefore we should build more dams. And then that dam fund and everything, he supported that. I mean, I don't blame, he's a cricketer, what he knows about water management. But there has to be experts who should feed him. At least he should have that capacity to actually take the advice from the right expert. But those right experts are not prevailing in the policy circles. Because why I say that we are not water scarce, I talk with numbers. I have the rainfall data of this region, starting from 1900 all the way to 2020. So I pick up the first two decades of the 20th century, 1900 to 1920. How much rainfall? And then compare it with the rainfall of the first 2 decades of this century, 2000 to 2020. Significantly, 10% more rainfall in this region, which is compatible with the climate change science, that more temperature will heat up the oceans, will make the bigger clouds, and will get more precipitation. So compared to 100 years ago, we are getting 10% more water. So our rivers should be flowing more. And they are, that water is going somewhere. You know? So that water we are getting. So we are not actually running out of water because of climate change. Actually, climate change is bringing more water. We saw it last year. Huge deluges in 2010 and this year. So all those are myths. Then finally, storage. When any one of us can see an X-ray, To our mind, X-ray, to our eyes, the X-ray seems exactly the same for each one of us. But if there is a radiologist sitting here, he would find so much of information from that mosaic of black and gray that we cannot. Similarly, for expert of every field, you can see way more than the eyes can see. Now, when I look at these rivers, I don't just see the surface water. I see the ground, and I mean, I'm not saying I see the ground, but an expert would see the ground, would see the soils, would see the hydrology, would also go underground. And it is the underground part of the Indus River which is not visible and which is your lifeline. As early as, I think 1946, there was a report after Rao Commission and all those things. They said that the groundwater resources of the Indus River system are way too much and way bigger than the surface water resources, and there should be major projects on groundwater exploitation and management. But then came 1947, and those things stopped there, and then we again moved on with the Indus Water Treaty and surface water projects. So that thing was left behind. There's a book, 1966, Alois Mitchell. I think some of you would have read that book. There's a statement in that book that says that the groundwater resource is 10 times more than the surface water resource. Our surface water resource that is quoted these days is 145 million acre feet per year. Multiply by 10. We have almost 1,400 million acre feet of water stored in the underground reservoirs. And when we talk about storage, that storage exists. As we sit here and speak, that storage is filled with water. Part of it, actually a major part of it, has been destroyed by our bad practices. Irrigation system has caused waterlogging and salinity, and irrigation system has poisoned our aquifers. Because we put too many fertilizers, too many pesticides and herbicides, and then we flood our fields with water, and all the residues of those nasty chemicals, it seeps underground and poisons the aquifer. 90% of our population, 80 to 90%, is within 50 miles of our river system, which is all the branches of Indus and then one big artery. 80 to 90% of our population. And out of this 80 to 90% population, about 90% of our population is exposed to higher levels of arsenic. This is not climate change. This is our bad practices. And if we move on with aquifer management, which is even today, we have at least, out of those 1,400, at least 500 million acre feet of water, which is not under our irrigated areas, but right under the bed of the river. That water is still 500 million acre feet, very conservative estimate. And we should learn how to exploit that. We should engage in our teams more than just the engineers who cannot see anything other than surface water. Somebody who has the capacity to look at groundwater, to understand what is groundwater, and then we have to bring in the technologies and expertise to exploit that groundwater. That 500 million acre feet of storage is enough for us to survive a drought for 3 to 4 years without any problem. And then if you take the water out of the sand which is underneath the river, that water is continuously being charged with the surface flow. So you have this opportunity. This opportunity has been talked about. I'm not the first person to talk about it. There was another book written by Dr. Nazir Ahmed and Ghulam Rasool, very accomplished engineers in Pakistan's bureaucracy, irrigation engineers. They wrote that book, and they said that the groundwater of Indus River Basin is a miracle of nature. There is no aquifer system, groundwater system in the world that I know of at least, which is as amazing as the Indus River aquifer. So we have to shift our focus on that for our development model, for our economic potentials. I stop here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Can I ask a question or later on?
Later on, we'll just please, if you, since he's asking about shifting the focus, research and education is the best way for inculcating all these things. So Dr. Riaz, I would like to just ask and add on, because you had one of the departments and wings in a prestigious institution. What is the status, especially when it comes to the education, and are there any courses or any kind of initiatives which help the young mind, the students, to interact kind of these kind of topics, so they can get them in their research?
Thank you very much. Actually, we like to have imported research now. So we like everything to be imported from abroad. So that's the situation in our education sector as well. Whatsoever the Western things they are coming to us, we don't do the indigenous work. To be honest. Like I myself have an experience because I belong to Upper Sindh, and Upper Sindh means Jakmabad. So we have seen the worst impact of this Gudu barrage on our lands, because our Jakmabad district, Ladkana district, Shahdatpur, and everybody just knows that they all are having a high level of salinity, and half of the lands are not cultivable. And rest of the things, what happens, everybody knows. When there is a flood, ultimately all these areas, they become flooded and you losses. In certain cases, like in our area, in some other areas, there is a lot of agriculture colleges as well. There are a lot of agriculture universities as well. But the issue is where there is a serious level of work, focus work on this issue, that's a very burning point on which we have to talk. And my second point is that you don't think it's like a living river. River has its own sociology as well. River has its own culture, history, and something else as well. You have a Mesopotamian civilization, you have a Nile civilization, you have a Ganga Jamuna civilization. Where is the Indus civilization? Because Indus civilization has been facing, you've seen Tudors from abroad. There's a reason all this history, which is history of the people's history of this region, has been naturally ignored. Either it has not been recorded as from the people's perspective. Then you have to see that how we have to talk about these issues, because ultimately Indus River means all this area has a long history. Long history means the history of tolerance, the history of inclusiveness. That must be the part of this, how this trained and everything that has to be part of this. And when I say, whatever you teach in the universities, the schools, in the colleges, you have to teach a holistic concept from the sociology perspective, the history, culture, and come to the economy. Because ultimately you cannot disconnect thing from this holistic perspective. And that should be, unfortunately, the focus of research and the university's object, but how things are going, we are all aware of all those things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Qureshi, if I may ask another question, would like to add on. I mean, you talked about the economic cost of this, bad practices or, unfriendly infrastructure. I mean, just tell us about, something, since you are educationists as well. What is the kind of status when it comes to, the policy, education, and awareness in our institutions? As Dr. Riaz already shed light, but what is your views?
Unfortunately, we don't have such, say, planning or courses, to be honest. If I look at the universities, where I've been working in many universities, haven't seen such groups or departments are there, but there are no researchers. The professors, they don't really, as Dr. Hassan Abbas said, people don't think there is a lack of governance, lack of planning, lack of understanding. So things here are also very different. Maybe one or two universities have this kind of departments where they can. I would really suggest there should be courses like that. For example, is there any water policy made in the country? Huh? 2018. Is that being followed or no? I don't. No, it's so this what we in a WISIP program where I was working as a consultant, we made a agriculture policy, But that was again criticized and so many things came, but has not been adopted yet. Things are going on, but they are not being, the way. So universities have to really come forward. SZABIST is one of the best institutions like IBA and others, they can. But there should be a kind of courses touching these issues of the economic or other sociology, cultural. There should be some studies. All those studies have been done by the private people. M.H. Power, for example, has done a book on groundwater. There's an individual study, but since he was an expert. Therefore, I think we should emphasize possibly if this forum, and then we can be requesting the government or the universities to really look at, because things are, in my view, are not in good shape. Because there are some of these people sitting here also, they can throw light. But in my view, I have been teaching at the University of Sindh for about 30 years, and then at Karachi, and then some other private universities. But there are simple traditional courses going on, BA, MBA, and all, minting money and teaching and all that, but the real research. Pakistan lacks a lot of research. Data is not authenticated. There are so many things that one has to look, and then we have to come forward with that so that things can get shape. Because this is our country. Now, what is the situation in 75 years? Where are we standing now at this moment? As far as the economy is concerned, as far as your GNP is concerned, per capita income is concerned, so many other things are there, therefore you can judge that things are.
Okay, thank you. Before we open the floor, one last question. Sana, I'd like to know, you know that there's the Indus Recharge program just initiated by the current government under the Ministry of Climate Change. And we have seen, this movie, it tells about the Indus as not only a source of water, but source of tourism, culture, and source of, life of the country. So how do you see that this program is accessible and is covering all this aspect when it comes to really charging Indus, but not only, shedding lights on these topics. So do you see that, this program or this Indus charge or recharge has a potential and it's going forward?
It's the Living Indus initiative, I think, that you're talking about. So we're actually, one of our ideas, Hisar Foundation's ideas of building pond storages has been included in the Living Indus initiative in the document. I think there are 20 solutions that they're putting forward, and one of them is ours. So just recently I spoke to one of the core members of the team, and they just said कि अभी उनके पास पैसे नहीं हैं. That's the status. Right now they're just applying for, there might have been a launch and everything, so yes, everyone knows that it's happening, but they are now going to apply for GCF funding and all other types of funding to actually put it in motion. But just to add on to what Dr. Hassan Abbas was saying, we've spoken a lot about everything, but I think one aspect that we have not yet touched upon is water governance and water mismanagement. So 90% or more than 90% of our water resources is used in agriculture, right? And we are one of the lowest productivity, we have the lowest yield per water per unit of water, and lowest yield per, one of the countries with the lowest yield per unit of land. And even within the system, about, I think, 33% of water is lost just in transmission. So when we're talking about building storages, or when that narrative is that build a storage, build more dams, like build Kalabagh Dam. So Kalabagh will give you, I think, is it 6 or 8 million acre feet? Something like that, 6.8 or something like that, right? If you repair the current system, you will be able to save much more than 6 million acre feet. So this is the also, we need to come up with high efficiency irrigation systems within we need to conserve some water within our agricultural system, or the water that's being used in our agriculture, and we need to kind of redirect it into other uses, because even from that 90%, if we're able to take out 5% of savings, there'll be more than enough water for our other domestic, industrial, and other uses. So this is also something that we should look at.
Okay, so living Indus के लिए अभी पैसे नहीं है, लेकिन policy है हमारे पास. No, I know that's a very common practice in our country, but this is also unfortunate. ये बदकिस्मती से है. Now we'll open the floor. आपके पास time है, बातचीत कर सकते हैं हम. अगर आपका कोई सवाल हो हमारे पैनलिस्ट से किसी. Okay.
And they have a long history, and they've been working on this since Sindhuvas, which means the people living in this from Gilder to the Thatha and other things. I'll suggest for 2 minutes they can.
हाँ, प्लीज़ अगर आप कुछ कंट्रीब्यूट करें और बताएं अपने काम के बारे में, और फिर हम बाकी दोस्तों से सवाल ले सकते हैं.
Thank you. First of all, I come to the documentary. It's a very much beautiful documentary. At one point, a question popped up in my mind: what is the purpose of this documentary? Few minutes later, documentary reached at the point where Indus stops to flow. So I have watched the first documentary which depicts where Indus stops to flow. So that is the great point. Other issues, documentaries are mentioned: pollution of water, and third, hindrance of the flow of the water through the dams. So I have studied very much of the work of the Dr. Hassan Abbas, and I think that there are two issues, Kalabag and Kashmir, which are the best instruments of the colonial policy of divide and rule. They are no solutions, they are the best instruments. So whenever we have started a new dialogue in our Sindhuvas Foundation, we have a Indus philosophy. Here I have also an objection on the title. There is a westernization of Eastern identities. Nowhere in our history, nowhere in the literature before colonization, you will find no name of the Indus, no name of the India. Only and only name you will find in our old scriptures or history books is Sindhu, Sindhu Asthan, Mahasindhu Sagar, which is we now called Indian Ocean. No, never. Before colonization, it was named Sindhu civilization, which was distorted as Hindu civilization. Then it was distorted to Indo civilization. Then Indus civilization and Indus civilization. After decolonization, if Bombay can become Mumbai, came forward to original name, why not we call this civilization Sindhu civilization by its original name? Why should we call it with the colonial name? First objection is that is why I say that our philosophy, our civilization based on the Indus is not a Indus civilization, it's a Sindhu civilization. And look, Sindhu civilization has a great contribution in a humanist civilization. You will find no palaces, no kings, no arms, no armies. It is a unique civilization built as a humanist model. So here we have a new philosophy that if our ancestors can give us the most humanist, peaceful, democratic civilization, why can't we give another humanist philosophy in 21st century? So my question, first of all, this type of documentaries when I ever watch, we must come with the solutions also. So there's my question from Dr. Hassan Abbas. Okay, is there any possibility, is there any hope, or how can the Indus Delta be restored? Thank you.
Can we have another question and then you, like we can continue with it. किसी और का कोई सवाल ताकि अभी साथ में हम एक दो सवालात ले लें. आपका भी सवाल? हाँ, कनेक्टेड ही आपका, अदरवाइज भी जो जी पूछना चाह जी प्लीज.
एक तो डॉक्टर साहब आपने कहा कि स्टोरेज बहुत है हमारे पास, we have, but in Sindh 75% of water underground is saline. How can that be used? Because that is very important. In Punjab it is different, here it is different. We can't use, even the people who the drinking time at this, for example, the people around 7 subdivision, Manchar, completely saline. It's creating a lot of diseases and all that. You know it, I mean. So how can this be used for agriculture? This is one. And other thing, you said I'm just forgetting. But anyway, this is my, yes, other thing was that how to convince the government or the people who are at the affairs, the powers that be, we all understand, to give these policies, planning and governance and implement things so that the whole Indus River recourse is brought back, as you have said. That's so I'm just asking a question because we need to have kind of a solution, because people like all here, all well-read, educated from NGOs and all that. So I think we need to explore these things so that a pressure group can also be created, you know, a sort of, to impress upon the government, give them the policies. We can write things and, you know, so these are my comments and questions.
Okay, thank you. शुक्रिया. अगर और कोई सवाल नहीं है तब तक आपका भी सवाल है जी, अभी एक साथ ले लेते हैं और आप बताइए कि अपना किन से सवाल है.
Hello. So before asking a question, I will present a context to which I am questioning. So basically, I am from last like 6 months. I have been researching into aquaponics, if you have been familiar to it. So it's mostly aquaponics. Yeah, so as Ms. Sana said, as Ms. Dr. Hassan said, 90% of the wastages for water or mismanagement or the toxicity is from the agriculture and the industrial waste. So agriculture being the most toxic, making a toxic water, we are planning to find a solution. I am very hopeless now from the government sector to bring some solution, implement some solution. I usually ask my dad after these conferences, what were the solutions? We have been brainstorming on the problems very much, but what were the solutions? So only private sector, just an example, like transport issue we had in Pakistan. Kareem and these startups changed the transport sector drastically. The private sector did it, not the government. So coming into agriculture, I have been seeing a lack of expert, lack of, especially in Sindh region, the expertness and the experience and the interest in coming into agriculture of our youth. There is no interest in this. So I will ask, rather than, we can do this brainstorming, like problem brainstorming, but we should focus now. We have enough brainstormed on the problems, but now we shall create some forums where we should involve the stakeholders, especially the youth stakeholder who are researching on the new startups in agriculture and all that, that we can brainstorm the solutions to make that effective and come next, step up to the next level. So I am just getting on to Dr. Hassan Abbas and getting on the question that are you seeing any experts or any discussions throughout your powerful circles, or you have been into the circles in the government sector and the private sector too? So are there any circles, are there any interesting people that we can connect and create a forum like this? So changing the agriculture, increasing the efficacy per acre, increasing the efficacy per water, everything. So that's because I am only assuming that we can only get a solution from the private sector now, and the people can change these issues, and then they could be a force, as a pressure force to the government to change their mood and get their funding and all that जो भी उसका dynamics होता है.
Thank you very much. So now Dr. Hassan, you have 2 questions and additionally third one. Sana, you also need to answer that, but yeah, just over to you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, thanks. Thank you for all these questions, especially like your question. Very pertinent question, and coming from youth is very appreciable. One of my professors in Tokyo University, Saitama University, he said that a question can never be stupid, only answer can be. So he would always encourage people to ask questions. This is actually very good that you have asked a very, very pertinent question. So I'll come to your question as I deal with the questions in a sequence, the way they've been asked. So, sir, your question was about Indus Delta, how it can be restored. Well, yes, Indus Delta can be restored. And first of all, we have to see the science of restoration. And then we have to build a policy and a mechanism and a financial system that would actually implement that science. So without understanding of science, we cannot move forward. That's the first step, because we can change policy, we can change economic models, we can change everything, but we cannot change science. So the delta is not just the lack of water coming to the delta. Delta is a system in which the river flow comes in a certain pattern, something I mentioned about the rhythms of the river, and with that rhythm of water coming into the delta, there is a rhythm of silt coming into the delta, and there is a rhythm of salt coming into the delta. So if you just start supplying water to the delta, it is not going to do any good. If you travel in delta, especially where the delta is now eroding into the creeks, you can take a boat and you can actually see the cross section where the delta is actually being eroded. You would see layers of sand, layers of silt, and then layers of very fine clay. Mangroves is an integral part of the delta. Mangroves, they start germinating in the very fine clay. They don't germinate in sand and silt. So you have to have layers of very fine clay to be deposited in the deltaic region. Now, when does that fine silt comes in? When the river flow is very slow and very mild. And that doesn't happen in monsoons. So the delta should be receiving continuous flow of water in the winters. And look what is happening now. It's only in the monsoon when a huge deluge will come and water will reach delta, and then there are so many people who are saying, hey, delta got the water, delta got the water. Delta did not get the water for its use. Actually, the huge floods, they actually erode delta from upstream. So that water which is going as flood waves, and then it comes with a lot of sand, heavier particles. in which the mangroves, even if they are growing, they stop growing. So we have to first understand the science. So when I say let the rivers flow, the only solution to get the delta being restored is not through human interventions, but to let the river come back to its original rhythms. And then the nature has huge power. There had been experiments around the world, in US, in Europe, in some other parts of the world, where they just let the nature take its course again. And the nature has amazing ability to recover, replenish, and regrow. So the solution is basically, based on science, is that the river should be flowing in its natural rhythms. Now comes the problem, which actually your point and your point would be kind of collectively answered. Why the river is not flowing? The reason is economy. Yes, it's all because of economic reasons. And then with economy comes power, and with power comes politics. So these three are the culprits. Of course, everybody needs economy. Not everybody needs power, not everybody needs to be in the politics, but everybody needs economic benefits. And then the economic benefits of the river system are very closely linked to food security. And it is basically the production of food from the water that is flowing into the Indus is taken out, and it is for growing food. But as pointed out by Ms. Baksa Musa, that our production methodologies are one of the least efficient in the world. We are the worst in terms of crop per drop, and we are almost worst as per acre yield. So we are not doing very well. The modern irrigation systems that she mentioned, they can produce as much food and fiber with about 1/10 the amount of water that we are currently using in our irrigation system. Now, as the numbers go, we divert 104 million acre feet of water into our canals to grow all the food that we eat. We can do it with 10. So we are sparing about 90 million acre feet of water. And that can just flow in the river. So that is where we have a lead. That is the point from where we can start. And if we start investing on improving the irrigation sector, start giving the farmers and start educating the farmers with modern irrigation techniques, which fortunately we don't have to invent. We just go with the current technology, although nobody stops us from inventing. We can invent too. We can be even better. But just think that the systems which have been invented in the world, if we start bringing them back into our system, then the youth, which is sick and tired of that Varabandi system in which they have to stand at the watercourse gate at 2 a.m. in the morning, and they have to monitor it till 4 a.m. in the morning for their 2 hours turn. The youngsters are not doing it, old people are doing it. Why would youngsters do it? They have these mobile phones and stuff, and they have other social things to do. So obviously, it requires people to be uneducated, unsocial, and slaves in order to run that system. And if you bring in modernity, then entrepreneurs would come, youth would come, and your productivity would increase. So she mentioned about water policy. 34 articles in water policy, they are being listed down without a vision and mission statement. That's a very strange policy. And if you start making a matrix of those things, you would see that there are at least 14 policy articles which are opposing another 14 policy articles. Like, for example, the policy says we should get rid of flood irrigation. Wonderful. That's what I'm saying right now. And then it says we should invest in lining the canals. This is in your policy. I mean, this policy is a joke. Believe me, it's a joke. And there are other things like that. So, at the end of the day, the way nature has made this river system, I talked about aquifer. I'm recovering your point as well. You have mentioned about salinity of groundwater in Sindh, and that is true. There is salinity in groundwater in Punjab as well, but not as much as it is in Sindh. And this is natural. This is natural because when the water starts moving from the mountains, it has more energy because slopes are steeper. So water moves with more energy. And as it comes down, the slopes get milder and milder, and ultimately in the delta, the slopes are extremely mild. So in the mild areas, the water spreads very wide, and it is laden with very fine particles of sand and silt. Actually not sand, mostly silt and clay. Silt. Yeah, silt and clay. And the soils of Sindh, consequently, are more fine-grained, and they cannot absorb a lot of water. If you move north, these soils are better drained, and they can absorb a lot of water. Then Sindh is the lower part, so river spreads out wide, and this part is actually closer to the sea, and the subsoil formations are actually seabed, and the deposit brought in by the river, which makes kind of the soils and the regolith on top of the bedrock, that has a thinner layer. When you go in the up north, the layer start getting thicker and thicker. So here the layer is thinner. So and below you have the marine formations. So there's a natural salinity in that. On top of that, there is a fine, thinner layer of fresh water, which is either come into the aquifer through large flooding events or through direct rainfall. But that layer is thin. But then, this is the land I'm talking about, where you are irrigating, where you are living. And the water in that area in Sindh is definitely more saline than Punjab. But when you go into the riverbed is not like that. If you taste the water of your river, it is drinkable. Minus the pollution, actually the Indus River water is drinkable. It is one of the best quality waters you can find in the world. This water originates from glacial melt. About 80% of this water is from glacial melt. And the value of water released from glaciers is one of the most amazing quality of water that you can find in the world. I can give you an example, because I would be connecting it with the economic value of that water. There's an island up north, close to North Pole, Svalbard. Actually, it's an archipelago there, and in that archipelago there's an island called Spitsbergen. There are Arctic glaciers on that island. When there's summer, the ships dock on those islands, and they have ready-made plants installed on the ships. They cut the chunks of those glaciers, they melt it and bottle it. No treatment, nothing, just melt that water, bottle it. A 750 milliliter bottle of Svalbard water sells for €75 in Europe. It's simple water. You can get 2 bottles of whiskey for that. You know, it's simple water, because that's the value of glacial water. And your rivers are flowing from glaciers. So this quality of water is one of the best in the world. But our engineering and our policy and our way of living has polluted that water to the extent that you can't even bathe with it, let alone drink it. So Now, again, I think the engine is, again, economy. Somebody should make money by bringing that thing into practice, and engage somebody who wants to make money, engage somebody who likes to make money, and give them these things. For example, one of the things that we are conceiving is this concept of riverine aquifers. A riverine aquifer is the groundwater that you pump out of the river. Not the surface water, but groundwater out of the river, like your well is actually sunk into the riverbed, on which water is flowing at the top, but you are not taking the water from the flow, but from the sand underneath. And that system is basically called riverine well fields. You design a geometric pattern of those wells. They operate with a certain sequence that you model and stuff, depending on the requirement of water for the user. And that water is pumped out, and through pipes it is supplied to the users. Those users could be domestic users, industrial users, or your farmers. Everywhere that water can go. And when we estimate that this volume is 500 million acre feet, that means you can keep pumping that water, and your well is not going to run dry. And every year there is monsoon and there are floods, it would replenish your aquifer. So that system would actually bring you to the resource. And then the beauty of this system is that 90% of your population is right next to the river. So this would not lead to any mega project. It is the projects which would be done at municipality scales, at union council scales, local contractors, local entrepreneurs, community-based work. You establish it, and then you can come up with certain business models which are being practiced elsewhere in the world. Like, for example, there are electricity companies in other parts of the world. Here we have monopoly of WAPDA and stuff. K-Electric and stuff, but in other parts of the world, there are independent power producers, and they can just put their power into the grid, and consumers can freely choose which power producer they want to sign a contract with. So similarly, today we have a very centralized and a very autocratic system of canal water supplies, controlled by SIDA, PIDA, IRSA, WAPDA, VIDA, and then VASA, everything ends with an A, and A means authority. So in other parts of the world they call it a service, here we call it authority, and that's a dictatorial mindset that we have inherited from our colonial masters, and then
You are into another territory.
Yeah. So you see, if we create this business model in which we don't need irrigation department, the government would only regulate the model. Somebody wants to put a well, should be allowed to put a well. Somebody wants to have a storage tank created here, a water tank created there. They should be able to create that thing, and then they should be able to buy from this well or from this well or from this well. And once they get their water, they are the distributors. They can distribute to the customers. Customers could be local, customers could be farmers, customers could be anything. So that kind of a model, if you start implementing from one side of the river system, you start taking canal commands one by one. You say, we would do the first project in the lowermost canal command of the lowermost barrage, which is Kotri. And you say, okay, this is the canal command, and we will start supplying water to these people through pipes and aquifers. With the businesses which are basically commercial businesses.
Dr. Hassan, Just need
yeah.
to like
Yeah, okay,
Tab
so-
and Sana also need to speak, so just if
Okay,
you quickly.
let me just finish this point so that you know that there are solutions, and we are talking about solutions. So what we can do is, we can ask those people to establish those businesses, then simultaneously we should start training those farmers with efficient irrigation. And start giving them that system. And you know, when people follow something, when they say their neighbor is making more money. So if this guy implements efficient irrigation system and starts making more money, his neighbor would also like to do that. And then comes the banks. They can finance the system, because bank would gladly finance when the bank knows that this thing makes money and my
value.
investment is safe. So there are solutions. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll stop it here. Thank you.
Okay, so there are not just banks. There's a lot of finance and investment being put into water sector globally also. So I think yes, there's a lot of potential, and there's a lot of potential for the youth to come into this sector, because it's going to become very, very economical. I think it's going to be a lucrative business actually now. Unfortunately, that's not. Water should not be something that people should be commercially benefiting from, but that's the way it's going, and private sector is stepping in. I think it needs to, because the government has not been able to do what it should have done. The other thing I want to say is that, well, at the end of this month, Hisar Foundation will be launching the 6th Karachi International Water Conference. We are especially focusing on youth this year. It's going to be held in November 27th and 28th. So there'll be call for papers and presentations. So please do keep a watch out. And this year, we really want to highlight and bring out and promote youth in this sector, because there is a lot of work happening. We know about some of it, but now we want to bring it to a larger platform. And we, alhamdulillah, we get stakeholders from all sectors, even corporate and agencies and everyone. So it's a good platform for you to launch off if you have anything in your mind. So
Yeah, okay, great, Sana. Thank you very much. अगर आपको किसी और का कोई सवाल नहीं है तो फिर हम quickly wrap up करें discussion को.
छोटा सवाल था इनसे और दोनों से कि how to get rid of the feudal lords from Sindh. We are under great pressure. Honestly, they are a big thieves. Yes, because no, she is working in Hisar, so I think he can, and he is our expert. So, huh?
अगर किसी और का नहीं सवाल तो बहुत शुक्रिया. Before I hand over to Dr. Riaz Sheikh for concluding remarks. Concluding remarks से पहले of course मैं शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहता हूँ on behalf of FNF and of course taking leverage from SZABIST. हमारे दोनों institutions की तरफ से सना आपका और डॉक्टर हसन आपका. I know I just fixed you in one of the very odd time because he has to catch the flight right after 2 hours. So right after the discussion he will be rushing to the airport. But nevertheless he is always available. इनकी बहुत अच्छी बात है हमेशा कि मतलब it's a kind of very common passion that we found while engaging Dr. Hassan. He talks about fact. इनकी बात जो है वो हक़ाइक़ और दलाइल पर मबनी होती है जो कि होनी चाहिए इस तरह के मामले में, क्योंकि पानी ज़िंदगी है और ज़िंदगी इसीलिए हम कहते हैं कि इंडस या सिंधु दरिया, सिंध सागर या सिंधु सागर पाकिस्तान की ज़िंदगी है, रेखा है ना, लाइफ लाइन है. तो
इंडस्ट्री की वजह से इंडस्ट्री लफ्ज़ है ना, लोगों यहाँ इंडस्ट्री
सो उसके बहुत सारे वेरियस है, बट ये कि आई स्टिक टू सिंधु. मैं पहले भी सिंधु कहना पसंद करता हूँ, बट आई नो कि थोड़ा सा लिटरली जो आपका होता है ना उसमें. बट बहुत शुक्रिया आपकी सारी तशरीफ़ आवरी का सब FNF की तरफ से मैं करना चाहूँगा. डॉक्टर हसन आपका स्पेशली, सना, डॉक्टर कुरैशी आपका, एंड हैंड ओवर टू डॉक्टर रियाज प्लीज़. आपका नहीं, I just want you to say
Thank you to Amir and FNS, and then thank you to you for coming and having a discussion on this issue. Ultimately, if we have to survive, we have to conserve our resources as well. Resources means in natural form, not in the artificial form, because you make a dam with an investment of billions of dollars. And lastly, what the catharsis we are facing right now, Manchar, what's the horrible situation of Manchar is, ultimately we have to make right bank canal, left bank canal, ultimately Sindh is a sufferer because we are at the tail and our delta is in danger. And tomorrow I don't know whether Thatta district, Sajawal district and Badin district will be on the map or not. That is the more horrible thing. I have seen the Tehsil of Jati. Jati is nearly submerged. When ultimately in the coming day, what happened, that's a more difficult situation. But despite this, we should continue our discourse on these issues, because ultimately a time will come when there will be Hassan on some national TV as well, because I know Hassan is a marginalized man because he speaks with the heart and he speaks with the logic. And we are a people who believe in more populist politics. But time will come when the logic will be heard. Thank you, Hassan, and thank you, Amir, to you and all other colleagues. Thank you for all you coming for this purpose, and it will continue in the coming days. Thank you. And we have a small distribution ceremony we'll do, and then we'll go for the tea. Thank you for the speakers and our host. जी वठन पे we have taken the photograph, फिर वो share कर देंगे. एक मेरा डॉक्टर 5 साल से नहीं ये चाय Anyhow, you can speak. You can conclude.
I don't belong to these people who need to just speak always and at the last point. And I think everything which has been relevant to this topic has been said and discussed. And there's just, my hope and a call to action that it's not just an inspiring afternoon, but that hopefully it will find some inspiration maybe in the teaching or maybe some new courses here at SZABIST, or maybe also some entrepreneurs or some engineers who would actually take geology and, let's say, ecological engineering also up. I think the best issue is always local solutions and small solutions which actually respect the specific conditions in a certain district or community, and it's normally such a network is superior to any centralized or national solutions. And I always feel there's, you mentioned that here in this country, unfortunately, only international scientific research is very often appreciated, and it's not like very much encouraged that you do local research, although you know your area much better, and probably maybe an ancient farmer in a certain area knows exactly how to water his land, when and where the water is, and what quality it has, and what plants he has to sow when and how to treat them. So there is a lot of knowledge there. And there was one expert in the film, Dr. Danish of the London, I don't know, King's College. You said that lots of the big programs and projects were actually motivated by big international money, and it was developed by international consultants, and everybody was just happy about it. So I think this is also like a power to call for local self-confidence to actually tackle your own problems. Do not go with the habit of going to the big multilateral organizations and maybe, I don't know, World Bank, Asian Bank, Development Bank, or whoever is happy to provide you this money. They provide you the money, they provide it with their, let's say, approach. And I mean, if you go and ask them, I mean, you are the person to ask, and they will be ready to provide whatever they know. But I mean, in that respect, I think whether you are being colonial or not and have someone tell you what to do, it's up to you. And I think in that respect, trust the local wisdom and the common sense. And that's at least what one of my teachers, it was quite a while ago, in accounting told me, said, artificial intelligence, there's still little less artificial intelligence than human stupidity around. And I think there's a lot of common sense, and you should trust the common sense and local knowledge as well. You can do it yourself. And don't go for the, let's say, the big mega projects, which have not only here in Pakistan. I think the Nasser Dam in Egypt is just like another big example. And I think in lots of parts of the world, we have just dropped this idea of big mega projects solving the issues of local communities. And I think in the end, it has to be you who solve your problems, and not the Asia Bank, not the World Bank or IMF or whoever might be in stake. So yeah, that may be like that as a call to action. Yeah,
Thank you.
take that into your hand and run with it, but run with it yourself.
Thank you. I would like to call Ms. Atika, Dr. Riaz Sheikh, for concluding the discussion as well as distributing the souvenirs.